Some say he dreams in 48K and that he farts Tim Follin music. All we know is he's called Bouncy Ball.
Hello everybody, how are you doing this evening? It is Friday the 4th of May, and breaking all conventions and probably a few little bylaws of internet radio, we are putting out a bonus Lolocaust in your Lugholes audio show, podcast, radio, Spreaker thingy. Firstly, a bit of an apology for the other week's ranty podcast. I'm not apologising for the ranting or the content. I'm merely apologising for the fact that you didn't probably expect that kind of thing on your drive to work. And had it been on a Friday morning you were listening to it, then it's probably, on the way home from work, on the way towards a bank holiday weekend. The last thing you really want is me ranting at the world because of emails that we've received and other things like that. But on the positive side, the emails that we got the following day were very positive and very exciting. And to say that the response to me being a bit ranty and complaining was actually surprisingly positive as well. So obviously you lot like it when I'm really miserable. Not quite sure how to think about that. Anyway, let's get on with the Lolocaust, and I'm going to play that Bagpuss intro, which was from Britain in a better time, but that makes it no less awesome and no less interesting. I'll see you on the other side.
Once upon a time, not so long ago, there was a little girl, and her name was Emily. And she read a blog. There it is. It was rather a usual blog because it didn't write anything. You see, everything in that blog's page was a link that somebody had once posted and Emily had found and mailed on to Bouncy. Emily's cat, Bouncy. The most important, the most beautiful, the most magical, saggy old internet troll in the whole wide world. Well now, one day Emily found a link, and she brought it back to the blog, and she mailed it to Bouncy, who was asleep in his pants as usual. But then Emily said some magic words. Bouncy, dear Bouncy, old fat furry noncy, wake up and look at this link that I bring. Wake up, be bright, spout venom and shite. Bouncy, oh hear what I sing.
Yes, so here we are with a rare bonus show. Don't expect these too often. Mostly, I think it's because the wife's gone out this evening and I'm a little bit bored. It also comes from the fact that I don't want you guys thinking that we couldn't put a show together. Hey, we're the Lolocaust, we're a bit fun, we're a bit wacky, we're a bit crazy. We're the oversized sunglasses of the modern day age. And yeah, so I just figured, bearing in mind the last was quite ranty, let's just do a little bit on the flip side, followed by a new feature that we want to bring in, following an email confession from a friend of mine who thought that I might like to put it in the show. He basically, I knew the story, but he's given me permission to read it out to you in my own inimitable style. So yeah, this is the Lolocaust. Thank you for listening. If you're a first-time listener, which we keep finding that we get first-time listeners that are listening to these shows and not the first shows, do go back and listen at some point. We're still welcoming you in board. The Lolocaust is us. It's myself, Bouncy Ball. It's Dalek Sex, who does the audio for the show, Dr. Hamhock, who is our transgressive poet friend. We have Nerf Derma and Scarred Star, who are long time members of the group. Before we were even called the Lolocaust, they were part and parcel of the conception of the Lolocaust. They kind of watched, rubbing themselves gently while I impregnated Consoles and Conkers, which gave birth to the Lolocaust. And so, we have a little blog. We've run it for about 6 years, and this is our audio show that stemmed from that. So welcome aboard. If you want to know more about it, go back. There are other shows, a couple of test shows that run into the history of it. And so we're going to be talking about some video game news that we've been reading about. We're not going to be mentioning the fact that it is the 4th of May, and there's a very good reason for that. As big a Star Wars fans as we are, there's still no need for it, really. What was once a little interesting thing that somebody had pointed out, it's been around for long enough now. I've been aware of it since the 80s, and I don't see the sense of using it, especially now that some money-grabbing organisations are using it as a thinly veiled marketing ploy. So, it's the 4th of May. We're in England, so that works quite well anyway. So, and that's that. We're not going to be talking about that. Well, we are going to be talking a little bit about Black Ops. Black Ops 2. We are going to be talking a little bit about Notch, Minecraft creator Notch, his views on the EA Indie Bundle. And we're also going to be looking at novelty Easter egg shaped pens and why you should never use them for anything important. We'll see you on the other side of this handily produced little bumper.
Poor bouncy ball, silent since birth, and able only to communicate through the gift of the knock. So that's 1 knock for a bad game, 2 knocks for a terrible game, and for an absolutely rage-inducing game, the theme from Zub.
Yeah, rage-inducing games will incur that music. But I think Dalek's X did a great job of throwing some rage at games in the last show, in episode 3. If you do want to go back and listen to that, it was very, very good indeed. We're not going to play it again because this is supposed to be a companion, not a replacement service. So, first up, obviously Black Ops 2. I did briefly skim over it in a slightly ironic, oh look, we've mentioned it and that's all we're going to do. We're not that knobbish. It's going to be another huge game. I was actually quite a big fan of the story mode of Black Ops, and history has showed us that actually the multiplayer has been far more popular than Modern Warfare 3. So, interesting that with that in mind, a pre-order bonus for Black Ops 2, and bear in mind we're still a lot of months away from the release of it. A lot of stores are doing pre-order bonuses that you can actually collect as of now. So they're offering you a limited edition. Now, I say limited edition. Obviously, this is millions of posters that are going to be published, but double-sided, kind of very nice. Actually, I've got one. It's a very nice, shiny poster, double-sided Black Ops 2 poster. You get that, and you also get a prestige token for Modern Warfare 3, which, I mean, is a good thing for people that own Modern Warfare 3, but those that actually are more of a fan of the Black Ops side of it might have actually preferred a bonus for the game that they loved the most. And I just think it in some way, is it a cynical ploy to get people back into Modern Warfare 3 for the transitional period, which in turn people will then start thinking, well, I need to buy the map packs to get in. So is it that? Or is it just, here's a nice little extra, just to say thank you for registering your interest early on? And I don't know which it is. I mean, obviously, the cynical side of me would say it is purely financially driven. But then the other part of me thinks, you know what? Could it just be a case of they've figured somebody might want a prestige token? Anyway, if you've got any thoughts on that, you know, we are on the chat, we are on Twitter. After the show, when it's gone live, you can also come over to the website and drop a comment on there or email us. So, it's an interesting one. The game's trailer has revealed quite a lot and also not enough. It started off a load of rumours and people got excited about the concept of robotic horses, even though it was quite obvious they weren't robotic at all. the biggest argument of all at the moment seems to be how a specific character for Black Ops 2 could have survived to for Black Ops 1 could have survived till Black Ops 2. But then this is a video game, and I remember killing Dr. Robotnik numerous times, but he kept coming back, and I never really complained about that. So, in a roundabout way, that's the best way for it to be, isn't it? Anyway, let's just play a quick promo for the Gamescast. I sort of skimmed over this last time, and they really do deserve a bit of a better plug. They got a great feature from Spreaker.com where they got to interview the community members, and the Gamescast did do a bit film there, and it's really good to see them blossoming, absolutely blossoming. And they were very kind this week to invite me to come onto the show at some point in the future, which should happen, providing it's tastefully done. I'm not just going to go over there and do the usual, hey, hello, I'm Bouncy Ball, I'm going to say something slightly controversial in the middle of your very good show, and you can sort of say, oh, look, we probably won't have him on again. So, yeah, it's they put their show out on a Tuesday night, and it's very, very good. So here's their promo. This is the Gamescast.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you some important news from the world of live chat shows, What Talk About Video Games. Chat show? Isn't it more of a podcast? It's not Jonathan Ross. You may not realise it, but you have missed the most awesome source show, What Talks About Video Games. Seriously, is awesome source even a word? Every Tuesday night at 9 PM, the Gamescast presents its unique blend of news and rants live via Spreaker.com, packed into 45 minutes of goodness. This is starting to sound like a coffee advert. We now return you to the Lolocaust, because we mad too.
Yes, there you go. They're nicking our logo, our kind of advert slogan thing of "We mad, you mad, we mad too. Everyone's mad. Everybody is a bit mad. Hey, we all go a little mad sometimes," said a scared little boy with mother issues. Anyway, back with the Lolocaust, and we're now going to have a look at this. It's not really a big bit of fuss. It's basically a comment which I think was perfectly founded. Minecraft creator Notch. I think I can't remember his name now. I think it's Marcus Peterson. If I'm wrong, I'm sure James in the live chat will point it out. But he basically came out and pointed out that EA's recent indie bundle that's contains such games as Shank isn't actually as indie as it's kind of purporting to be, and as such is nothing more than an attempt to cash in on the kind of rise of these indie bundles, that generally the charity ones are. So you're looking at kind of the Indie Gala and the Humble Bundle and Indie Royale, I think, as well. And they genuinely do put out games from independent developers in a way that supports both a developer and very often a good cause as well. Recently I bought the Humble Botanica debut bundle, and again, you can't get much more kind of indie than that, and the content was great. Now, I can't argue that the EA's bundle doesn't have worth. The games that are in there's some fantastic games in there, and it is something that's worth purchasing. But obviously, what we're discussing here is whether they or not something that's kind of published by a big publisher, so whether it's Activision or whether it's Ubisoft or whether it's EA, if a company puts out a game and it's picked up by a publisher, that gives it a bigger spread to get out there and actually be purchased. Now that's not a bad thing. EA used to do this years ago. They used to do this kind of partners program where if they were kind of slightly interested in purchasing a company, they'd sometimes just partner up with them, give them some advice, and it would be a foot in the door for a future purchase. They did it with Criterion after the trouble with Acclaim in the first game, obviously, as they went through, and we know where they are now. Now, some people say that Criterion aren't the studio they used to be. They're mostly basing that off the back of Burnout Crash, which, frankly, it's a bit ridiculous because Burnout Crash is a completely separate game. Love it or hate it, it was never made to be a Burnout sequel. It was just kind of an offshoot. And, without EA, that game probably wouldn't have made it out. Again, some people might not have kind of been too fussed about that. But I think it's not is not that bad a thing if an indie studio can partner up, providing obviously they're still making the games that they want to make. Should they then still be classed as an indie game if they have financial backing? Then no, I don't think so. But there's nothing wrong with having that heritage, having that still. You've got that atmosphere, you've got that feel, you've got that vibe, and yeah. So, what do you think? Do you think that the kind of the indie boom is something that's being exploited by the bigger companies? Do you think that by slapping the word indie on games like Bastion and Limbo is a cynical thing? Is it actually, does it hurt the games to be branded as indie, or is it helping their sales being branded as indie? I loved Bastion. I love Limbo. There was Braid as well. Yeah, they're developed as independently generally as possible, but I don't think it's bad that they got a bit of a helping hand. So yeah, there you go. That's the indie debate done, and we're going to now move on after this promo for the Monday Movie Show. Going to move on to a new little section that we're going to have not necessarily every week because it's reliant on people actually getting in touch with us, but it's basically like a confessions booth. It's if you've got an embarrassing story and you kind of want to tell people, but you don't want them to know it's you, send us a link and we'll create a character and base it on your story. So later on, I'm going to be telling you the story of my friend and his lubricant. Okay, so yeah, listen out for that after this promo for the Monday Movie Show, which is on a Monday night and it's about movies and it's a show with Stu and Andy. So go and have a listen on Monday night or now, whenever. Okay. Monday Movie Show.
Do you like films? Then tune in to the Monday Movie Show live on Spreaker.com every Monday at 7:30. Each week, your hosts Stu and Andy review the latest cinema and home releases, as well as going over the latest movie news and the box office / Blu-ray and DVD top 10. For more information, visit the site www.mondaymovieshow.co.uk or follow us on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. And don't forget to download the podcast on iTunes. Just search for the Monday Movie Show.
Okay, right. So here we go with the Lolocaust in your Lugholes confession booth. Now, there should be some music in the background here. I really haven't spoken to Dalek about it yet. We're thinking about, like those late night love programs that you sometimes get on local radio. They go out about 11 o'clock at night and it's like, oh, I saw this man at work. He didn't notice me. And I went to the bathroom and I freaked myself silly thinking about his flowing hair. And then the cleaner walked in and caught me and I ended up sucking him off. But the man caught us and now he won't speak to me ever again. That kind of thing. Well, we're going to do that, but with these stories that we've been contacted with. Now, this story that I'm about to tell you is a true story that happened to a friend of mine that I went to school with. It all occurred while his girlfriend at the time, and I'm not even sure if they're still together. I'm pretty sure they are, but I'm not going to say it for definite in case obviously she cheated on him and left him, and that makes him quite bitter. But yeah, she went on holiday for 2 weeks and left him on his own, no responsibility. He had his consoles, he had the television, he had a Sky subscription, and all he wanted to do was enjoy the single life for a little while. And I don't mean he wanted to cheat. He just, he wanted to enjoy some personal time. Some personal time with Madame Palm and her 5 lovely daughters. So, one night, and I swear, he told me this not quite as seductively. I promise you that. I'm embellishing it for your audio listening. One night, he ran himself a bath. And he listened to some relaxing music. After the bath, he put on a long robe, went into his bedroom, made himself a cushion pile in the corner. And pulling out a mattress, from underneath his mattress, he pulled out one of his Grumble mags. And as far as I can remember, it was a men-only magazine. I think that's what he told me. And there was a woman in that magazine called Cynthia. And he'd been a fan of hers for 3 years. He'd kept the magazine from when he was 14. So looking at Cynthia's curvaceous hips and her luscious lips and her very hairy minge, because let's be honest, it was old porn, And he obviously wanted to rub one out for England. So obviously, not wanting to subdue himself with friction burns, he reached out to his wife's cabinet, picked up some moisturising lotion, and proceeded to use it liberally for his sexual pleasure. This continued every day, a few times a day, until she came back off holiday. The problem was, and unbeknownst to him, much like cooking a frog in a saucepan, where if you boil the heat slowly, it will just sit there and die, he had subjected himself to a rather unfortunate situation, whereas he basically hadn't been out of the house that much. He hadn't noticed that the lotion he'd been using had a holiday skin aspect to it, which essentially gives you a bronze look slowly. His partner had been using it before she went on holiday, so she didn't look so pasty. They sometimes say that you may be caught red-handed, and this is probably the first time in history where somebody's been caught brown-handed. As one palm, particularly around his kind of that bit, I don't even know what it's called. On your palm, at the top, below your fingers, it's like the opposite side of your knuckles, it's quite firm, and it gets all callousy. That had gone like a deep copper brown, and the whole of his palm looked like Al Jolson. Just, hey, mummy! He could even do, it was literally a jazz hand. There you go. He had a jazz hand. Now, you could probably say, oh, it's okay. You know, I've had an accident. But of course, his genitals were also a beige colour, as was one of his moobs, where he had been reaching up and giving himself a grope. So, yeah, as she realised what had been happening, it proceeded to be a row, and he left and went to the pub and told me the story of why he was at the pub in the first place, promising that I would never say anything to anybody about it. I then got home and rang 3 close friends, and then I sent out an email to a few more friends, and now I'm telling all of you. Now, he did give me permission. I wouldn't have gone ahead, above his head and just read this out, but yeah, he essentially wanked himself off with bronzing lotion, leaving his genitals and hands a lovely, lovely mahogany colour. So there you go. That's his confession. That's his kind of embarrassing story. I've got one of my own that I'm going to drop in at some point in the future, but I'm not going to tell you when it's my story. You're going to have to guess which one it is, but it's definitely not that one. That I could tell you for sure. So if you've got an embarrassing story, or a friend who had an embarrassing story, and they probably won't mind it, even if they do mind, just tell me they won't mind. Email that to bouncyball, that's with a H after the B, bouncyball@hotmail.co.uk, and we'll see what we can do into the show. So there you go. We've got 7.5 minutes left on the timer, which is quite good. I was hoping to kind of finish at 1/4 hour, and I thought I'd be stretching it to get there, but I haven't. So there you go. With no Dalek Sex audio for this show, although he's done the bumpers, it was a very impromptu one. And I just want to thank you all for listening in. Thank you all for supporting us so far. And I just wanted to let you know that in about a month's time, we're going to be trying to do something quite large scale. We're going to hopefully be broadcasting for 24 hours solid. Whether that will work quite how we want to, we're hoping to get some other shows on. The Gamescast and the Monday Move Show have already expressed some interest. We're hopefully going to take it in shifts and do a show and then overlap slightly so we can hand over to the other shows. It's all going to be raising money for a friend of mine who had a horrible experience and that nobody should have to go through. But we figured that the best way we could help, rather than be sycophantic and, get involved with a fun run or something daft like that, we just figured we'd kind of do what we do. We put on shows, and we're going to do that. There will be obviously a fundraising aspect to it, and I know times are tough, and we're not going to ask anybody for a lot of money, but a couple of quid, if you could put in a couple of quid for us kind of slaving away at a hot microphone stand for 24 hours, it would be very much appreciated. We're going to also be trying to run online multiplayer games throughout those 24-hour periods, and we might even be playing them while we're on air. It's not going to be 24-hour long show as such. It's going to be us broadcasting for 24 hours. And like I said, I don't know quite how it's going to work at the moment, but we've sent out a few emails. We've had a few interesting responses, depending on how that goes. We're hoping to raise about £500 minimum. If we can smash that, it would be great. It's a very good cause. So, like I said, we'll give more details on that closer to the time. If you are interested in getting involved and you do feel you could add something, even if it's just doing something, getting sponsored for it, and we'll kind of pimp you out on the show. If you've got a website and you're happy to kind of get involved, or anything that you can do to help us out, if you can provide equipment or advice or services or whatever, drop me a line. It's you can get me on Twitter is the easiest way. That's at Bouncyball, which is BOUNCYBHALL. And and we'll see how we get that going. It is an ambitious plan, but one I think actually that could be as much fun as it should be, while at the same time being respectful and dignified. So there you go. And with that, we will wrap this one up. This is Lolocaust in Your Lugholes, episode 3.5. I haven't even got a subtitle name for it. I'm thinking of them up. So I'm going to call this the BioWare response, because we did a show that wasn't quite as good as it should have been. Some people mentioned that it wasn't quite as good as it should have been, and we rolled over and put out a new one. Oh dear, what are we like? So, on a day that sees the London Mayor race decided, and it looks like a foppish hair buffoon who actually isn't that bad might well get in. On a day when sci-fi nerds across the world have ruined what was actually quite a funny pun by twittering it to oblivion. On a day that saw one of the members of the Beastie Boys sadly leave us, we leave you with this. It's the Bagpuss outro music. Not quite the fitting tribute that it should be, but because there's some legal wrangling to be done in case of us wanted to put live music out, this should have been obviously sabotage or something just going out. But while this is playing, imagine it's the Beastie Boys playing some kind of a harpsichord on this last piece of music. So good night, everybody. Thank you very much for listening in. And we'll see you next Wednesday for episode 4, where we'll be discussing the next generation of consoles and possibly peripheral hell. Goodbye, everybody. I've been Bouncy Ball, and I'll see you next week. Cheerio!
Bouncy gave a big yawn and settled down to sleep. And of course, when Bouncy goes to sleep, all his friends go to sleep too. Nerf Derma and Scarred Star were just a pair of old bad trolls. Dalek Sex went back to playing with his organ, and even Bouncy himself was just an old cloth twat, baggy and a bit loose at the seams. But Emily loved him.